Here's like what's happening.
Yeah.
All right, we're doing it. Today we're going to talk about cheap seats. I'm going to try to make this short, but it might be a little bit long. Just going to like let this roll and talk about what I did. Drums are all splice samples and weird live tambourines and stuff like that. The bass is DI, the electric is DI, the slide is DI, the piano is MIDI, the banjo is played live in the room, recorded with an MXL 990, so are the acoustic guitars. The vocals are recorded with this Shure SM7B. Pretty simple stuff. And then my buddy Boone mastered the track. So the thing about this project is that it was recorded at 120, and you can find so much music recorded at 120. And if like my advice is that if you're between like, oh, like this feels really good at 142 and this but like I could go to like 145 or 140, go to the even numbered thing, because you'll probably be able to find samples at that tempo easier than like 142, for example. So basically, if we just listen to drums, let's even just like loop this. Drums, bass, this chugging electric guitar, slide guitar, right? Obviously. And then this banjo part, which I love this banjo part on its own. Really simple stuff. So let's kind of like dive in and see what we're dealing with. The drums. We've got a kick that's a sample. I just like cut out a lot of the highs because it was like a really annoying roomy sounding kick. It was a live sounding kick, and that's what is important to me, is finding really live sounding things. There's like a rim shot which has some compression on it and then some EQ. Also has a slap verb. A lot of stuff has slap and plate. That's what 13 and 10 my sends are. So that's like a reverb and a slap. We've got this open hi-hat. We've got our snare, which just has some EQ. It was a really great snare as it is. It also has a little bit of room verb. Our hi-hat. Got these like really bad sounding toms that I high-passed and threw room verb on. This was a sample. This was a sample. I just put them together. And that hi-hat is built into that sample. Dunk. And I think that's why I ended up using a lot of hi-hats. I don't like the way fake crashes sound. I do eventually use them at the end, but I was gonna go for a song where I used mostly hi-hat splashes as my crash cymbals. My fun fact about this song is that when I was producing it, my roommate came into the room, Gage, and she was like ASMRing into this microphone, and she ate a chip into the mic, and it made it into the song. What a chop. And it's in the first fill. On the snares, there's also that thing. And we have a different hi-hat. I think it's just processed a lot quieter and more mid-heavy for the choruses. You cannot forget a clap. So these old tape drum claps that I found, and then just added the little double clap in there because it felt appropriate. A verbed out tom, some more ga. Eighth note claps and offbeat claps. Quarter note claps and half note claps. I said eighth claps. That is not accurate. So yeah, that's basically all that's going on in the drums until we start getting kooky at the end. We go to a ride cymbal. We still keep the hi-hat in. We add these crashes, but we go to a ride cymbal as our main sort of timekeeper, right? We also do these doubled. I think this tambourine was recorded live in the room. Obviously, I quantized the fuck out of it. 16th note quantize, EQ compressor, room verb. That's it. And then let's see, I added these crazy samples that I loved that I found, which is this cowbell sample, some other sample that I didn't label like an idiot, and then this loop too. A lot of splice samples.
Hurt me, burn me, hit me with it.
And knowing the vibe, obviously those are splice samples. I think I typed in like vinyl tape drum kit, and I used a lot of those. Bass, EQ. I wasn't using flat wounds, and I think there was just too much squeak, and I wanted it to be super pop, so I basically got rid of all the highs. I don't recommend doing that on your bass because it kind of kills the vibe unless you want something super tight. And then I bring back some of the highs in this bass amp. Super easy. Bass amp and then a compressor. And that's all. This electric chug, which I think I did a little bit of bus processing, which is crazy. Also, barely any bus processing on this song. If I went back, I'd probably mix it a lot different now, but is what it is. The electric guitar sound is EQ, just cutting out the lows, the sort of like Fender style amp, and overdrive, which gives it a lot of energy, and then a stereo spreader on the lows. So this just takes up a lot of room in the stereo field. Okay, and then the slide guitar is very fun as well. A little bit of bus processing, a little extra compression to glue some of these later parts where we're doing two parts at once, so that little extra compression on the bus helps those feel in the same world. I love using this plugin. It's very low output mix, but this is essentially a chorus, but it's like you can control the bands, the different EQ bands of the chorus. It does sound great on the banjo, though. I'll show you. Watch. This banjo has this ensemble feature on it, right? And the output mix is very low. This is our banjo tone, but if I crank this, it's essentially like a chorus, but just a little bit adds some depth to the part. Doesn't make it sound so sterile. Amp sim, although I think I use, I use a tweed. I think on this heavier sounding slide. Later I use a brown, like their darker sounding tweed. I don't know what this is called. What is this called? It's a condenser mic, small brown panel amp, some sort of weird Fender tweed type thing. Overdrive. Multipressor. I use a lot of multipressor all the time, often to control the lows of everything I touch. I love this ending slide. These two parts together are really fun. Once you add this fucked up piano, I love this piano. It sounds really bad on its own. Right? But in the right context and when everything's mixed in,
I hear you whisper from the cheap seats.
really fun. At the very end, there's a different processing for the bridge piano versus the regular piano. Much quieter, and there's literally 0 plugins on it. But yeah, just compression, EQ, and again, I'm using that ensemble thing, and then I'm throwing it through Verb. That's the pre-made verbs that when you open up a software instrument, that gives you these verbs on the Yamaha piano. And then I throw it through this tape box distortion, this thing, which I use on the vocals a little bit too. Love this thing. Really fun. Adds some like cool... Let's hear with and without. It was already compressed to hell, right? But just some extra warble. It sounds like an old tape box, and that's the point. So yeah, there's one for the main, one for the bridge, and then at the very end, I throw this clavinet part in, which is cool. So, kind of a counter melody thing, right? I need it. Okay, banjo part we kind of talked about for a sec, but there is EQ, compression, multipressor, getting rid of some of the, actually bumping some of the warmer parts of the banjo because it's such a bright instrument. And then I guess I use a lot hotter processing on the chorus, or on the bridge, because I really liked this. Bum, bum. So much bleed, but what are you going to do? And then room, verb, and that is it on the banjo. Oh, let me talk about the acoustics real quick. Acoustic, like just a little bit of EQ on the bus, 2 takes, 1 left, 1 right, some corrective EQ, some subtractive EQ, and a compression and a tiny bit of room verb for both of them. And I think I put eighths because when I played this part, it was a lot more strummy and hard, and then this one was a little more picky. Like I knew I wanted to like have 2 different sort of sounds going at once. This is the whole instrumental that you see here. No synth on this song. Weird for me. Not even a mellotron, like nothing. But let's talk about these vocals. I could do an entire second video on just the vocal production. Here's like our ending stack with so much stuff happening, right?
All that I see, and now I'm scarred from where you hurt me, burned me, hit me with that 3rd degree. A little harder's all that I'll ever need. A little longer's all that I'll ever need.
I didn't do a lot of timing adjustments. I left it kind of purposefully loose. Our main vocal is, and this is a bad stack. I don't know why I did it like this. It's too much going on, but I'll show you what I got. EQ, I rolled off too many lows, but I wanted it to sound really poppy. Multipressor, I got rid of a lot of the mids. Brought back a little bit of the lows here, but not much. Another EQ, bringing back a little more mid warmth and giving it a tiny bit of air, more so than the air I already added here. And then a compressor, and that's it. But yeah, pretty heavy compression. I think I use pitch correction here on my scratch, and then I go in and edit it like really closely with flex pitch. And then I'm running plate verb and a church verb, but a lot lower. Don't know why I'm running 2 verbs, but I am. I'm also running a slap delay and a distortion, the tape box distortion that I was mentioning earlier.
Do you know?
And then I process the bridge a little bit differently with all of this nonsense on it. Plate, tape distortion, church, more slap, tele EQ, which is really fun. I'll show you that. I do that on a lot of vocals. This feature, if you just go to EQ tools, phone filter, wideband, this is the Logic thing that makes...
You don't have to tell me that I'm...
Sort of makes it sound like you're talking through a phone, but let me compare that. This is what I did. Just a less extreme version of that, and I turned it way down, and then I threw it through a send. Weird way to do it. I'm not the best at producing or mixing, but that's how I did it. Doubles.
Am I pathetic if that's more than alright?
All right, and that's it. I mean, it's the main chain is like a main, and then a double panned almost all the way left and right. The reason they're not all the way left and right is because that's where the harms are. There's a little bit of compression and a little bit more reverb on the vocal bus, and that's it. I think the compression is probably pretty light. Yeah, like barely input. Just
Picking
to give
about
the doubles some glue.
a little someone,
Versus this, let's hear.
a little new.
Yeah, they feel a little bit more separated, right? Harms are as follows. We've got our verse harms, which are spread all the way out. Our chorus third harms, which are spread not so far out because there are some fifths occasionally and some other moments. These are processed a lot heavier. It seems like there's probably a lot more compression, but EQ, multipressor, compressor, and then a church and that tape box distortion.
From the cheap seats,
Without.
I blur my vision till you're all that I see.
So just added a little bit of depth with that ensemble plugin, but it's not on the right ear. Just felt good. I don't know why.
I hear you whisper from the cheap seats. I blur my vision till you're all that I see.
Eventually, on the next verse, we'll get the fifth in there too.
I got your number at the top of my phone. Send you a message, but do you care? Got my attention just by flipping your hair.
Some fun stuff, and then eventually we get into the...
Do you know?
Right?
I hear you whisper from the cheap seat.
And then I spread even further. Here are the fifth belows.
Seats. I blur my vision till you're all that I see. Drown out the noises while you're talking. Dive in on shit lost in. A little longer's all that I'll ever need.
I think I just added more of that fifth. I'm curious what these all are. if they're the same part or what.
A little longer is all that I'll.
It's the third below, so the third an octave down. So there's a bunch of harms happening here.
A little longer's all that I'll ever need. A little longer's all that I'll ever need.
And then we've got vocal moments, which is like the things at the top. Like 1, 2, here we go. And then we've got this oh yeah, which has a lot more tele EQ. And yeah, exactly. Stuff like that. And we're probably sending a little more verb on them as well, but not much. It's just sort of more masked and turned down. There is a moment which I love, which is there's this crowd cheering.
Like it this far.
Which is a sample I found.
Do you know?
So if you heard that, that's the only moment in the song right before that first chorus.
Do you know?
So yeah, there's that. I did a bunch of takes of the talking,
Talking, diving, oh shit, lost it.
right? Just little moments like that I love.
Sent you a message, but do you care? Got my attention just by flipping your hair.
I really liked that tele EQ style thing on my shouts, so I ended up adding that on a separate channel from the shouts at the very bottom to the bridge as well. There's this like Joe style.
You don't have to tell me that I'm the one.
With that tele EQ. Let's see. Yeah, so like your normal processing and then just that like sort of talking EQ thing. These little things after the chorus, right? So we've got woohoos.
I'll ever need a little longer's all.
Just moments like that. That happens in the chorus too. All the shouts, all the talking, and then I bounced just the do you know and threw it at the end. And that's this do you know right here from the second chorus, this thing.
Do you know?
And I just bounced that and put it on its own track.
All that I see. Do you know? And now
Did a little bit of time editing on those so they all lined up. But yeah, that is essentially the whole song. I've got a limiter on the master, adding a lot of gain, and then I've got just some EQ corrections, adding warmth and adding like really high brightness. That's my song, Cheap Seats.
whatever you want. Don't waste a second, babe. Let's leave on the
Just
right.
solo.
No whisper from the cheap seats. I blur my vision till you're all that I see. And now I'm scarred from when you hurt me, burned me, hit me with that third degree. A little hot is all that I'll ever need. A little long is all that I'll ever need.
That's it. Thank you for watching.